Glad to see it.
Yes, I am. I'm glad that part's done. Now the real work.
Set up and it would be good.
But they're already starting the same process for project two, so. Oh, yes.
So a little bit of action. You got one.
Did you ever tell your joke?
Oh,
That's fine.
listen to that.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was
It was much harder at first.
Oh, right, right.
Keep the line that they should.
All right, good morning. My name is Eric Kapinski. I'm the MoDOT Improve I-70 Program Director. We appreciate you coming out today. We will have a few statements from a few of our leaders that help make this first project happen. Earlier today, the commission did award the first project for Improve I-70 from Columbia to Kingdom City. I will now turn it over to Missouri Highway Transportation Commissioner Chairman Terry Eckert for some statements from the commission.
Good morning. On behalf of the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission, I'd like to thank Governor Parsons and the General Assembly for providing the historic funding for the Improve I-70 program. The $2.8 billion in general revenue funds provides us with a generational opportunity to prove one of the most vital transportation corridors in Missouri. The safety and economic prosperity of Missourians depends on, in part, on an I-70 that grows along with the state and nation. We are thrilled to be part of this endeavor and are pleased to announce Millstone Weber and their designer Jacobs and their successful proposal to start work on the first 20-mile section from Columbia to Kingdom City. This will set the precedent for future improved I-70 projects across the state. This is truly a historic day. I want to take this moment to thank my fellow commissioners for all their work on this, for Patrick, the MoDOT director, for his hard work, and truly for all the MoDOT staff that have stepped up above and beyond to get this project rolling in such a short time frame. It is truly amazing. That's thanks to Eric and to Ed and Eric and all the employees at MoDOT for getting this thing rolling. So thank you.
Thanks, Chairman. I'm now going to introduce our next speaker is MoDOT's Director, Patrick McKenna. And a real quick story about Director McKenna is when Director McKenna was first appointed director of our organization, the question was asked, is this going to be a priority for our director? And very quickly, before he even came here, he started inquiring and getting information on I-70 coming from the East Coast. And he very quickly made it a priority and helped set the playbook for the funding for this and really said this is a critical corridor for the state. So I'm now going to turn over to Director Patrick McKenna.
Thanks, Eric. And you notice that this isn't a toll road, right? So I heard that pretty loud and clear. We had a couple budget bills that I think it's okay for me to say the word now that we're not doing that as part of the plan. But you know, what a day. What a milestone for the organization, for the state of Missouri. And when I think of this day, what I think of is two words. Really, two words come to mind to me. It's courage and faith. Courage and faith on the part of the governor and the General Assembly, and particularly Senator Lincoln Hough, to have the courage and the faith to bring forward a plan to expend and invest Missourians' hard-earned tax dollars toward this initiative, and the faith that we'll see it through, even if it's beyond their terms. I think that's so critical when you think of political capital that gets spent. So many times we look at just the here and now. We need leaders like Governor Parson, like Lincoln Hough, that look beyond their own tenures for the good of the state and the good of the nation. They've had courage and faith. When I think about courage and faith, I also think about the proposers, the companies, the private sector, who have taken a tremendous risk, and they've taken on a challenge that's necessary to move our state forward. And when I think of that, I think of the entire industry. Just a couple years ago, we're in the throes of a pandemic, a global pandemic. Our industry here never shut down. They kept working, they kept moving forward. And right out of the pandemic, when we thought, thank goodness we're out of the pandemic, then we had supply chain disruption, which brought tremendous risk to the private companies that do this work, particularly when you're talking about material supply in this industry and the impact on that, the workforce, the labor. You know, the industry that kept their own private capital at risk, that kept their workforces working, is one of the reasons why they were able to compete today. They had tremendous courage to do that. And they had the faith that we'd get through those bad times and get into better times. And frankly, their courage and faith has actually brought these better times before us. And I'd also say on the part of the commission, the courage and the faith to come together and to work together in partnership with the governor and the General Assembly to forge those relationships necessary to bring funding forward. And to the MoDOT team that have left jobs, not necessarily comfortable jobs. We don't have too many of those here, but to take a risk within their own career to step forward and take on this challenge. And for all the other MoDOT employees, particularly in our project development area, who had the courage to stay put and take on a challenge of a $10 billion capital program. We need that desperately, as well as those that are working on this project. And so for all of those three groups, the courage and the faith that they've had to bring this forward, I think is the reason we're here today, and the reason why I have faith that we're going to succeed here better than anyone else could expect. Who thought that you'd have 4 lanes of open traffic through the entire construction period, with some exceptions, I will grant you, but and that always has to be the case. But this is an extraordinary plan. It's an extraordinary plan, and both teams brought that forward, knowing how important that is to the economy in Missouri to keep the roads rolling. You know, Missouri marks the distinction of being the birthplace to the interstate, with the first project under construction on I-70 in St. Charles County in 1956, and it makes it one of the oldest. We've been studying this corridor for decades. Studies are coming to a conclusion and the work is going. You know, Millstone Weber, who understood the engineering and design endeavors, they set out before them, and the local, statewide, and national importance of an improved I-70 comes through in their plan. The attention to detail, moving local traffic in Columbia and in Kingdom City came through in their plan. And, you know, in addition, MoDOT continues to make other improvements to I-70, as well as in including the Buck O'Neill Bridge in Kansas City and the Rocheport Bridge in mid-Missouri. Both of these projects are scheduled to be completed this year on time and on budget. Congratulations to Millstone Weber and their designer Jacobs. It's a monumental challenge that they're going to take on and go before them. But with MoDOT, along with those wonderful partners, again, I have the faith that we are going to get this done. We're going to make this improvement to the state of Missouri, and we're going to keep moving forward, as Commissioner Ecker said. So thank you very much.
The next person we will have come up and give a few words is the MoDOT project director. This person, Jeff Gander, will be in charge of first he procured the project, and Jeff will see this through construction and help deliver this over the next couple of years from Columbia to Kingdom City. So Jeff.
Thanks, Eric. Yes, I'm Jeff Gander, and I feel like I'm more the spokesperson for the team. I have a wonderful team of people behind me that make me look pretty good when I get up here and tell about all the work that they've done. But I also want to recognize the two teams that we had competing, like Director McKenna did. They really brought forth their A game and gave us some good proposals. So we were really happy for that. This first project is $405 million, and it does go from Columbia to Kingdom City. We're going to redo the 63 interchange and the 54. And what we're going to get out of that at the Route 63 interchange, we're going to get one that increases mobility and provides a lot of different options for mobility in the area that didn't exist before. It consists of 4 roundabouts, a new interchange bridge, collector distributor road. And I know some of you may not understand a lot of that terminology, but it's really cool, and it's going to work really, really well. Trust me on that. Yeah, it's going to be like nothing you've ever seen, but it is going to function very well. As far as the main line, we're getting 3 brand new lanes on I-70 both directions, 12-foot outside shoulders, 5-foot inside shoulders, and that's brand new lanes, one into the other. No asphalt overlays, all new. So that's that. We are getting a new 54 interchange that will improve traffic flow. A couple new bridges there, and that's kind of what we're getting. So I wanted to say that in the next month or so, we'll be working to get a contract signed with Millstone Weber. And until we do that, we can't share a lot of details, but I will mention that we are going to have some informational meetings in Columbia and Kingdom City in the spring, where we can share a lot more details of not only the final designs, but of the traffic control phasing that will happen. So construction should start early in 2024. Best place to stay informed about this. We have the Improved I-70 has an overall website, but we also have a project-specific website. If you just go to MoDOT, it's pretty easy to find out there. So thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Our final individual that will give a couple statements and then we'll open up for questions is the president of Millstone Weber, who was awarded the first contract today, Tom Kuhn with Millstone. When we do these design build projects, we really stress to industry. We want industry to bring our best and brightest ideas and really maximize innovation. And Millstone did that with this first project. So I'll now turn it over to Tom to give a few words from the Millstone Weber's perspective.
And it will be very few words. Dang, Director, you say there's a lot of risk in this thing. Can we reconsider? There really are only a couple of days when these things go perfectly. Today is one of them, and when to have the ribbon cutting. In between, it gets pretty nasty. We promise we are not going to do anything to make people's lives miserable. It's not why we're here. We're here to make their lives better, and we will continue to do that. We have unbelievable numbers of incredibly smart people working on it. I just don't happen to be one of them. So thank you for letting us go along for the ride. We hope to make you proud. Thank you.
So with that, I'll open it up. Are there any questions for anybody about Improve I-70 from Columbia to Kingdom City?
Mr. Boatwright made comments about legislation, change the structure, change who is in charge of the road fund. Many of these ideas haven't gotten very far in the legislature, but there's some evidence that maybe they might move. Do you fear disruption of this project if the legislature acts on any of those proposals to change the management structure, or who's in charge of appropriating money from the road fund?
Well, as a commissioner and knowing how well the commission works, and then also, or the structure of the commission, and then just spending time across the street talking to elected officials, I'm just going to say it's not going to happen. I feel pretty confident that the citizens of this state chose this structure for a reason, to isolate us from politics of the General Assembly. And I just don't foresee that happening. So I don't know that we spend much time worrying about it. Patrick, anybody else got anything?
Tom, I have a question for you. We've heard Director McKenna talk about any possible labor shortage, supply shortage, and we've seen that over the years. Where do we stand with this project that is set to start? Do you have any labor shortage or supply shortage?
No. Short answer is no. There's enough time to get things ready, get things planned. There's going to be a lot of work in this state. And yes, there is a labor issue across the state, but for this project, no, not in particular. There won't be anything.
How many workers do you anticipate on this project?
Technically speaking, a whole bunch. I can't say specifically. I don't. Gentlemen in the back, technical folks, workforce, hundreds, yes.
300? This might be for Jeff or Eric. Is you're doing this in sections, and so every time you're awarding a new company, possibly the same company, I don't know if we can talk about that. Why did you only award so far maybe 20 miles? And could it be the same company?
Yes, when we looked at this corridor, the approximate 200 miles, we're a little less than 200 miles. As we looked at this, we said, what makes sense and how do we break this up or dissect this? By choosing this first project to be 20 miles and start from Columbia and go into Kingdom City, we really leveraged work that's already been done previously before I-70 funding came available. And that section really made sense for us to get a quick start and begin construction later this spring, early summer. Had we looked at a larger section or incorporated a larger contract, our start would have been much delayed. And so much as the bold decision was made to fund this, we need to make a bold decision to begin work quickly and show results. And really, it's just important we get going. So that's how we decided to do this first project. For future projects and future contracts, those opportunities are available to anybody, and they will be independently evaluated through our normal processes.
So this spring or summer is when it's going to start working. What does that work look like? Is it shovel-ready type work, or is it?
Yes, later this spring, we will have a public meeting in Columbia and Kingdom City where we will communicate better the schedule, but we do anticipate construction to begin later this summer, potentially even late spring, with moving utilities and getting other stuff in place. And our schedule will be much better defined at that public meeting in Columbia and Kingdom City, where residents, citizens, businesses can come talk to the engineers, talk to the MoDOT, talk to the designers, and get a better understanding for how this is going to look and feel for the next 3 to 4 years.
What's next about St. Louis and Kansas City? Where do we stand on getting those projects started outside of Wentzville and Blue Springs?
So we're here today to celebrate our first project from Columbia to Kingdom City, but we are quickly going to work on those next projects, and it'll be from Wentzville to Warrenton, and then Blue Springs to Odessa. And so our current schedule shows that by this time next year, we're looking to have those projects awarded and be working in 3 large sections of I-70 concurrently.
Where is the bid process at for the second section?
We have yet to issue any contract documents for that second section. It has been determined that it will be a design build contract. So we will be looking for a team of designers and contractors to move forward, just as this project was. And we do anticipate to start engaging with industry at a deeper level in the next couple of months and begin that process later in the summer.
And what's the project estimate?
We're currently looking at that. Our range is somewhere between $400 and $550 million. And as we spend a little more time, now that we get a second to breathe and celebrate this win, we're going to quickly go there and refine that estimate and really take a look at what needs there are. And just as there was with this project, where we already had projects in place with our traditional planning process, as we look at our other 2 projects that are coming up next, we have that ability to pull in projects that were already going to take place with our traditional process that we can incorporate and get economy of scales with.
What leg?
The amount of pavement that is brand new pavement, the entire section that they bid is brand new pavement, concrete full depth pavement, and the incredibly innovative design in Columbia to remove local traffic from the movements to and from 60 and 73. Really, really thoughtful, really innovative. And those were incredibly important aspects, and for the long life and duration for the traveling public. That will minimize the maintenance demands in the next 10 to 15 years significantly. And that really, those are the two main factors.
Can you clarify, when you say brand new pavement, are we getting 6 lanes of brand new highway when it's done? Because I've sat through.
And shoulders.
And shoulder side, because I've sat through legislative hearings where somebody said, 10 years ago, if we don't do something about I-70, it's gonna be a gravel road. So this is redoing the base of the entire highway across all 6 lanes.
It's redoing the pavements. Again, anything that can be reused will be, and including the techniques for creating that base, which could be rumbleized existing pavements. But essentially we're dealing with an 11-inch overlay on 6 lanes of traffic, a 12-foot outer essentially shoulder and a inner shoulder of 5 feet. It's extraordinary.
And I'm just curious, is there anything built into this contract that if we get back to inflation like we had last year, 8%, as opposed to our current more modest rates, is there anything in this contract to recognize some extraordinary rise in cost?
No.
And the dollar amount is 405.
$405 million. So when we talk about risk, this is risk that's being factored in by industry. This is what we see, and we have seen really a leveling off over the past year. I think our chairman mentioned that we had great competition in our normal bids this month, and we've been right at budget for the last several months. So we're really pleased with the dynamic that's occurring, the stabilization that's occurring. These periods of inflation can be unpredictable, but they also pass. And we feel like the worst of it's behind us right now, as far as what we can see. Yes. Not at all. No, you didn't. We started a little early, so apologies to you. Nope.
Motorists in Mid-Missouri, should they anticipate a situation where it will be faster to get off of Interstate 70, go 63 south to 54 to Jeff City, come back up 54 through Fulton, get back on the highway there, than try to get through that construction?
No. The simple answer is that there will be 4 lanes, 2 in each direction, which is what the current capacity is, maintained throughout the duration of this construction. Now, obviously, there will be some closures. There will be some areas when the construction is done. The approach that they're taking is they're working to build the median first and then shift over in both lanes, which is really innovative and interesting in the way that it's done. And to enhance safety, there will be barrier that's placed, but you won't have any head-to-head traffic going on. And I think this was one of the keys. It's also one of the factors in the cost, because it is that important of a corridor to keep and maintain traffic volumes. The notion of everything having to be diverted is just simply not the case. Now, it'll be a little narrower, and frankly, we'll be asking people to travel slower and pay more attention, of course, as they would in any work zone. But these are large work zones. They'll be in segments as they go. But that is one of the really important facets, and it was one of the goals that was set right at the beginning. Both teams competed in that, and I will say both teams in their proposals delivered that.
The other question is, people who drive that highway consistently know that it can be a disaster in Winsville, where the road S curves, goes underneath the railroad, comes back out.
Every day.
Squeezes
Yep.
rush hour traffic into insanity. Why mid-Missouri first and not?
Well, I think what our program director, Eric Kapinski, was saying, and very humble individual, but to get an interstate project from signed bill with funding to today, 6 months later, is unheard of in our industry anywhere in this country. That is typically 2, 3, 4 years in duration. So our program team and our senior management, Ed Hassinger, Eric Schrader, when they really started looking at not only the need to get going, but the need to get going quickly, and to put a pin in the ground and start, we didn't have all the environmental clearance all over the state, right? So we are running a bunch of things concurrently in segments of independent utility. So the timing and where we started, where were we far enough along? The 7063 corridor was where we had the most advanced environmental work and clearance that was being done because of the complexity of that project. Being able to incorporate that, I think the real high level thinking that occurred with our chief engineer and our deputy chief engineer and the project team was to select that, knowing that everyone wants us to start somewhere else. That's just the nature of the business we're in. But that is the one thing we could bring forward quickly. And I will compliment our district team who was already working. They have worked really well with our program team on those interchanges. And that was really the key. That's the selection point. Then we go to pain points, and it's really about looking about contractor availability as we go forward. So we move from this one over to Wentzville next, in large part because we have another large contract letting in Kansas City from Paseo to 435. It's a very large contract, not in these project limits, but in our normal STIP. And we didn't want to have competition among those projects to limit the competition on I-70. So, there's been a whole lot of information that's passed between industry and MoDOT. And a lot of these were the result of some really great public meetings that were held early on. Industry told us what their concerns were about capacity, and we've tried to incorporate that into the schedule.
Based on what you know now, and I know a lot can change over the course of time, but based on what you know now, what is your best estimate at when the second section will be shovel ready?
We're probably looking at, as Eric said, we're trying to bring, contract information forward and hopefully release an RFP maybe as early as the end of this calendar year. So if that is the case, then we'd be looking at a similar construct for next year. We are moving very quickly. The 6 core projects that we're talking about, I mean, we are talking about putting out the biggest project in MoDOT history every 6 months for the next 3 years. And that's really it's an incredibly aggressive schedule. And we're going to have to temper what we do based on the capacity of industry to absorb that and to make sure that taxpayers get a good value while we're going. That's going to be a lot of give and take. How we design the method of procurement is going to factor into that. There may be sections that can be broken into smaller sections, let on a bid build basis. We don't know that yet until we get into more detail and until we have more discussion with the public. Which one is that?
44.
Which, and I can't tell because I always think of them named one or the other. Look,
When
great.
is that environmental study that they funded last year in the budget? When is it already underway?
It's underway. Just a couple weeks ago, contracts were let. I mentioned that in our comments earlier. We have 2 contracting firms. We're breaking that into segments right now, 2 segments from Oklahoma, broken up, and then to the middle of the state, and then further on to the St. Louis region. So those are already on the street. They don't absorb the full $20 million at present, but that's the preliminary work that goes back to kind of reconsider some of the work that was done in 2008. And then from there, it kind of springboards into more specific work. So I think, again, the governor and the General Assembly did really great work last year, envisioning not only the work that needs to be done on I-70, but setting the process in motion. We're not as far along on I-44, and I-44 is not as old as I-70, but we recognize the need. There's rapidly growing, particularly freight traffic along that corridor. We recognize that, and that's why that's really next in line. And we look forward to working with the General Assembly and the governor and policymakers going forward to, once we have more information, to start layering in funding for that and proceeding forward.
Jeff, you talked about roundabouts being installed, I think, on the dysfunction junction, as I call it, this
Malfunction.
53 to 70.
Malfunction junction.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. How is that gonna work efficiently when it comes to traffic?
We're not really ready to get into the fine details of that. We don't have a signed contract with Millstone Weber yet. What I can tell you is that interchange, you'll get a new bridge. All the traffic modeling we've done says it flows way better than what it is now. And their design that they brought, it's very unique, but it removes a lot of traffic from the connector and just lets it function so much better. It adds additional bike ped mobility for that area. And it's going to be really, really nice. We can't give you all the details right at this moment.
I first drove through that intersection 40 years ago, and I've heard promises that it's going to get better before. What happens if it doesn't work?
This will be our last question that Jeff's taken, because our commissioners do need to go eat lunch and they have other commitments. So Jeff can answer this one, and then Jeff will be available to answer I-70 specific questions. But we'll take this final question, and then the commission do have other commitments. So we do appreciate that.
I guess we should talk about advancements in traffic modeling. Not that I fully understand that, but the traffic modeling that we do, it shows how the connector breaks down now very accurately. So we have it modeled for 2045, and the design that we have shows that the model shows that it will work in 2045 as well. Like I say, there's a lot of different parts to the puzzle, and it is very unique, and it will take some education to get drivers comfortable with it. But all the modeling that we do shows that it works very well in 2045. We're not trying to build it for today. We're building it for 2045 traffic.
All right. We appreciate everybody coming out. As I indicated, Jeff will be available if you want to hear any more or ask any more specific questions about Improve I-70 off to the side. But we do appreciate everybody coming out this morning, early afternoon, to hear more about I-70. Thank you.
I've been in